Okay, once again, one of those days in the shop where it's a little bit wet outside. Me and Dad did a parts run this morning, up to CMP and Go Gear. Picked up a bit of molly from Go Gear and a couple of weldings for puke overflow on the oil tank and back pressure sensor in the exhaust pipe. As well as went to CMP, got a few other little fittings and stuff, and this tranny cooler and fan combo deal. Which we're going to mount up in the back here. So just iron this off now, and we're going to use a couple of our little Tim McCamus tabs again. These things are really good for mounting stuff. So I'm going to put a couple of those on there and maybe a bit of flat bar for the top, and then we'll be able to run our lines from our trans cooler up the front to the tranny there. Does just climb up a few fuel lines and stuff now that we got bits from CMP. And yeah, we're going to have plenty of line to get back to the trans cooler, because the trans cooler was a lot further away in the Tirana, being behind the back tyre. So this one's going to be level with the diff. So we'll get into it.
Well, you've got to hold your tongue right. Big ass package. I got a package. Oh, just when I thought I'd finished with bloody hose fittings, here's another 50 billion.
I'll go around there like that. Okay, got the dash ready to be cut out for the UC10, which is absolutely massive. As you can see, it only just fits in this fat face dash from Tim McCamus. But a cool thing they do is they have a template that is exact size of the dash, so that helps you not having to be able to use the dash and scratch it and all of that. So that gives you your exact hole center lines, so you can tape it to the piece and center punch it when you make your bracket. But I laid it on there, got it exactly where I knew was gonna work for inside the dash and what looked good in the car. And then I just taped around the outside, and then I went around and overlapped the tape, so it's for 4 mil-ish extra on there, so I don't go cutting too far, because we're gonna have the dash come up behind, and I wanna have a little bit of carbon overlapping the dash itself so that we don't have a gaping hole next to the dash. So that'll look pretty good. Now I'll get to do the fun job of cutting this hole again.
Is that a fucking rinse? Yeah, don't put that in it. It's got to do with that.
That would make sense.
Oh, that's all the fuel line, vacuum lines, boost reference lines. All that sort of stuff's all locked away now, apart from the dry sump lines to the oil tank, because we just don't have the dry sump yet. But as far as the breather for the dry sump, we've got that locked in. We've got all the fuel lines done, changed and done now. There's a bit of a bugger, this one under here, this big dash 16. Had to go a couple of 45s, but we got it done. The sprayers are all back into the pressure reg. And all these main fuel lines all come up nice. We only really had to buy about 4 or 5 little fittings and stuff. Shorten these. The dash 3s, they're all like reference for the valve and pressure reg and stuff like that. That's all done. Coming to the back here, I've run the trans cooler lines through, so they only need to be shortened, so I don't need any extra for that. Kind of made up the brackets for the transmission cooler, and we've got that loaded in there, bolted down. We've got nice 45s coming off the top of the transfer, so they all fit mint. So we're going to move on to get the dash finished off, getting all the converter dump stuff mounted up in the next day or two, and we basically want to get it ready for wiring by the end of this week. So we're going to have everything in place for our wiring guy to come and lay the wiring out. Check the liquids on that.
Keep hold up there, buddy.
I'm getting the shakes.
All right, kids, we're just getting these fire bottles mounted up. It's a pretty simple job, this one. You can make all little tubular stuff, but we're just keeping it simple, stupid here with this deal. So we've already got a bracket in here for the back panel. So I've just got a bit of 3mm flat bar, as simple as that. You get the 4 brackets that you can buy with these fire bottles. So I'm going to utilise the brackets already there, bolt the panel through it. Bottom brackets are going to go into there, kind of will TIG them on, each one. And then the top bracket, same thing, I've just got a couple of bits of flat bar. Once we've got the bottom one in, we'll just pull it up to level and TIG that onto there, and that'll be the bottles mounted. Sometimes you can just do it the simplest way and it'll work pretty good.
You like those, mate?
Okay, today we're working on the glorified sprinkler system, irrigation system for the car, the fire bottles. So yeah, we're just making up lines. A good thing to remember is every time you're putting a flare on, make sure you have all your fittings onto the pipe before you flare it. Because in the past I've done a beautiful flare and thought, oh shit, now I can't get these guys on. So That's the flare I've done there. That little Dugan puts pressure on the flare, and then the nut comes over and screws onto your dash 4 fitting. So pretty simple. So I'm just about to lay a flare on this one, so get me nut on there first. Put the little locator on the right way round, which is that way. So then that protrudes out the back like that. So now we'll give her a flare. So when we're doing our flaring, we get it so it's virtually level, if not slightly protruding. I find gives me the best flare. Lock these Dugans back in. Get a little bit of pressure without crushing the pipe. So she's just protruding there. Just so it's got a good bit of pressure, not crazy. Back that off. Yeah. Mate, this is fucking heavy shit on here. Okay, this is the number 2 sprayer, actually number 3 sprayer coming down the driver's side. So we've come through the firewall. So we've put the pipe through the firewall first and then added the fittings so that we had the smallest possible holes, so there's no big gaps or anything anywhere. And this one here, we're aiming at the engine on a slight angle. So if any little soldiers come out of bed and get on this hot pipe and start a fire, this sprinkler is just going to cover this whole area and extinguish anything that happens, anything nasty that happens down in here.
Okay, here we are this morning. We've just got the leads all tucked away there. The boys wanted them all tucked away so they're out of the way of the pipes and the bits and pieces there. We've got them labelled at both ends so that we can't make any mistakes, and we'll work out when the leads come through for the coil packs, they can just go in the right spot based on where we've got our leads there. So yeah, it should be all good, and it looks pretty good.
But when you're getting out after a run, you don't want to be in a place where you're going to smash into it.
No, it's fine. That's right where the...
What about reaching
I think even with the army straights, I think you can still reach out with the other hand.
That's right where the Toronto one was.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's us.
That's right.
Tacker.
All right, we're having a really productive day in the shed today. I've been working on this fire system, so I'll just give you a quick 101 on how the fire system actually works. This is a protective split pin here, so it neutralises the system. So when you're working on the car and you're in the shop, basically if you hit that without this pin in, it has a plunger here that drops down in and perforates a little bit of alfoil. This plunger goes down, perforates that bit of alfoil, which then sends pressure into this second bottle, which then activates the second plunger that goes down into that alfoil little disc, and then the system becomes active. So both of these bottles completely empty into the fire system. So I'll just take you around how we've gone about plumbing it. The rule book specifies that there should be 2 nozzles facing at the driver, 2 facing under the headers, and then another 2 spraying over the front of the engine and the fuel tanks. So we did a little bit of a test on how the nozzles actually work. We plugged it into the hose outside, or made a little adapter, plugged it into the hose, and we found that it came out a full 360-degree spray. It raised a good 100 mil and then sprayed quite a wide, like a 1 metre area. So we had our first one next to the driver here, so it completely engulfs the transmission, the whole driver, without sort of blocking his vision totally when he's trying to pull the car up, but he'll be completely soaked with that first nozzle. Then we decided to put the second nozzle in here. This is adjustable. We're going to run all P-clips on this. I've just cable tied them in just so we can do the dummy up, so they'll all be P-clipped in place. We can slightly change the angle of this one, But the same thing, we want to cover the driver's feet, any fire that's coming in from here. So that full 1 metre circle that we believe that comes out of here is going to cover all his feet, blow back over the whole drive. Other guys put them up here in the column. I'm sure that's a good idea as well, but that's just how we've decided to do it. Then we came through and we got the ones under the engine there, which I was laying down before and told you about it, but there's one of those on each side, which will just completely engulf the engine if that's on fire. And I guess the big one here, even though they're quite close together, as we said, they spread right out, but these in the fuel tank fire, front end collision, anything around all these fuel lines and everything, that just engulfs and goes back over the whole front of the car. So that's where your biggest fires are going to happen, and that's why we've got the majority of the fire system in that area there. So she's knocked out apart from P-clipping into place, because we are going to paint the engine bay probably next week. All this stuff will just, once everything's fitted, we're just going to quickly whip it out, give it a coat of paint, and then it'll go back in and be P-clipped and all sort of for the last time. So all the fuel lines are finished. Troy done an awesome job on those leads. So the electrical's just going to come through, and that'll be all P-clipped as well. Troy made some nice brackets for the air bottle. And that's just all stuff out of the Tirana. And even the lines, this comes up to the shifter. That's where the shifter gets activated from. And then this line goes down to the MAC valves, which control the wastegates. So they'll all be mounted here with the ECU. The MAC valves, the EGT box will be just alongside there as well. So that's one of the jobs we'll be doing in the next few days. Connor is also working on the roll cage padding. So this is instead of having a wrap around the bar deal, it actually comes in sheets. So Connor's making some frames to go on each side of the driver, on the back of his head and the top of his head, some little aluminium frames, and then we're going to bond this stuff to it. So we'll have the driver will be fully protected with SFI, approved padding, which Andra requires you to have, whether it's a wrap around the bar or in sheets like this. We've got that all underway as well. So yeah, it's a really good day in the shop. All right, Friday afternoon. I've been on the pipe for 3 days straight, dude. I started off with the fire system, a couple of days flaring, fitting fucking -4 ends. Got that locked away. Then I moved on to the stainless brake lines. So just been hitting the pipe hard, and the end is nigh, the end is near. A couple of little tricks. I guess it's pretty idiot proof really, making brake lines and stuff, but a couple of little lines I made across the front of the car here. I just used a bit of welding wire as a template. Pretty simple. And this stainless gear, I just used one of the dies off the bead roller. That actually bends nicely around the bead roller die. Gives you nice bends, doesn't collapse the pipe at all. So that was pretty easy. Coming in here, Bailey, we'll have a look. That's the master cylinder there. We've got the line. We've got plenty of room in there, so there's no need to go too tight. It's a McCamus kit that we got with all stainless lines and all anodized fittings. Really nice kit. Comes down here, has a nice little weld-on fitting where your soft line goes, and you just want to keep a nice line of travel up and down when turning. That's got plenty left in it. That's the little one I made across the front here with that template. These all have to be P-clamped, but they're all pretty good. I'm right down to the diff now with it, so the line for the back sort of runs, you can see it there, it runs right along, crosses over up to the back of the diff here. Then I'm going to have soft lines coming to each side of the diff. But yeah, it's a nice kit, but you do need a master technician to fit these things. So lucky I've been around to help the boys out.
Okay, Friday afternoon, we're just wrapping up a few things in the driver's compartment here. Got all the panels ready to go for the head protection padding. Gonna put a head bar, a helmet bar in here, just for a little bit of extra strength on that bar, but all that padding all the tabs for that are welded in. Got the Haltech UC10 dash mounted up in the carbon dash there, and it looks pretty trick, all flushed up to the face of that. I'll have no problem seeing when I'm smoking the limiter in the burnout or something like that. So yeah, got the Haltech switch panel up here as well as our main power switch is in there now. That's the same spot as what I had in the Tirana, so just more than anything, it's just similar to what I know. So that's good to have that in there. Got the bottle brackets all painted up, and the panel down there behind all locked away for good now, so that's never coming back out of the car. We're moving on to getting these pads on and doing some more brake line stuff tomorrow. Up in the driver's compartment now, and you would have heard me say back in the start of the build series, we wanted to keep all the driver controls nice and close so that they were within reach and well easily accessible to the driver. So when you launch, you want to come off the button, and a bad habit that I've got is reaching for the shifter. So we wanted to mount the shifter as far away as possible, but it didn't quite end up happening. So luckily I got it nice and close to me still, so I can short shift it if I want. But that's nice and close there for neutralising the car as we cross the finish line. So I'd come off the chute there and then into neutral, and then shut the car down all in within one motion. So that's pretty important to have that all there so that you're not reaching around and fooling about trying to turn the car off and neutralise the car. So another thing we added was the fire bottle release, which is also in an easy spot to remember as well. With my arm there on the rail, I just swing my hand back and I can connect with that fire release straight away. So it's not, once again, something you want to be chasing around the car looking for when you're rolling upside down at 200 mile an hour, if that does happen. Once again, important to have that in a good spot.
All right, late Sunday afternoon, or evening I should say, here in Perth. I've just finished up on the rear brake line fit out. The stainless line comes to the top of the chassis there, and then we go into flexible line. So there's a weld on the chassis at the top, and then another weld on down at the bottom there on the diff. That's the diff at full extension, so I've just maintained just a little bit of slackness on that line. Just if we ever adjust the ride height, it still gives me a little bit of room so we don't yank on that line. Both the flexible ones going to the diff have a nice little curl on them. Both of them about the same, so they don't even need any cable ties or anything on those. They just loop around nicely. They're away from the coilovers, so real happy with how that's come out. I'm a massive advocate for cable ties, but we've gone with the P-clips on these brake lines, and I think the advantage is that it controls the line nicely, but without the line touching the chassis at all. It's not going to fret on the chassis or chafe on the chassis at all. So those P-clips are holding the line nicely throughout the whole car. So if you come into the inside here bay, all the fire system, there's nowhere where that's actually making contact with the chassis at all, but it's all held in place, so we're not going to have any chafing or anything. So we're going to go with that. It's just sad that we're not running as many cable ties as we have in the past, but we've just got to accept that we're going to the next level. So I'm sure we'll get plenty of cable ties when we get the wiring done, and that'll make up for my loss. Connor's been working on, we had too much play in the front end here after we mounted the front. It's got a lot of area hanging off the fender here, so Connor's made this killer little piece to support the back of the fender. So that's what Connor got to on Saturday. That's turned out mint. I'll just show you what we're talking about here. So that's the pipe section, but then we still had 350 mils of fender here that just had a little bit too much play. So we're going to have one more deuce fastener there, and that's going to keep that looking mint. We've pretty much run out of light here, so that's going to be me for the night, but I've actually deep into the final rub down on the body. So I've been using 320 on all the flat areas. I've been using my fine scourer pads to get into all the little bits and pieces. When I've moved into the real rounded sections, I've put my interface pad that's helped me get around all these edges. In the next day or two, I'm probably going to have this thing completely rubbed down, and who knows, we may even see some green on this body. So like, subscribe, comment. You guys are keeping us pushing on in this deal. I love all your comments and all your encouragement, and tune in next week.